Well, in terms of the causes of poverty, I have been looking at poverty not as something that just exists, but that recreates itself, and that any kind of attempt to combat poverty has to look at the root causes of poverty, and often that has to do with power structures that, for example, in thinking about food security, why is it that women, heads of households or women farmers, suffer from food insecurity? It's partly because they have low bargaining power within the household, within the community. They don't have access to land, they don't have access to credit, to extension services and so forth. Now what happens is that today you have new threats that will undermine the food security of households that are already vulnerable, like climate change, that can play havoc with the environmental conditions that the food insecure farmers are producing in. You have competition for land from biofuel investments. You have a global economic environment where prices are extremely volatile. Sometimes, higher prices will be beneficial for food-producing households, but actually the capacity to adapt to changing conditions and produce more is limited when you don't have access to credit to increase your production. So all of that are these new threats that will keep reproducing poverty. Well, I do think that you have to focus on the structures of power and why people are poor. And so unless you look at these sort of systemic issues of how the economy works and the kinds of opportunities that poor people have or don't have because they are powerless, I don't think you will get very far. I want to focus on the MDGs, not so much as MDGs themselves, but the use of targeting to drive development. And I've come to the conclusion that those targets can do a lot of good in terms of mobilizing people, mobilizing support for neglected priorities like maternal mortality. But they can do an awful lot of, they have side effects which have perverse consequences. You know, if you shine a light on one problem, that's fantastic. But that light also tends to cast a shadow on many other priorities. And this is the problem with this target-driven approach, that you select just a few targets, whether they're in the MDGs or the SDGs, and you end up forgetting about the rest. And so why is it that so many activists were furious at the selection of the goals for gender equality? Because they focused on gender parity in education, in primary and secondary school enrollment. Well, this has been done in so many countries. There's so many other priorities, right, that they didn't mention. Education was reduced to enrollment in primary school. What about technical education, tertiary education, adult education, literacy campaigns, so many other priorities that kind of got. The other problem is that when you're driving an agenda with targets, you forget about the complexity and the multi-sectoral interventions that you need for long-term structural change. And you just go for these magic bullet sort of, silver bullet short-term solutions that don't get at the long-term root causes of what is reproducing poverty.